So this is why when a kid falls asleep in my class, I just let him sleep. So a handful of years ago, I had a student, and we'll just call him Billy. And Billy had some behavior struggles and came from a rough background. And this one particular morning, he walked through the door and I could just sense something wasn't right. You could see it in his body language and you could see it in his eyes. But the morning pretty much started without a problem. And as we got into our morning math lesson, 15 minutes into it, and I'm talking 15 minutes into it, I looked over at Billy and he was fast asleep. And I mean, out like a light. And I could have easily gone over there and woke him up, but I didn't. I let him sleep. I let him sleep through the entire lesson. The lesson itself, the activity, and the assignment. And eventually, the math lesson came to a close, and it was time for my kids to go to music class. Fortunately, the music room is just down the hallway, so I let my students line up and walk themselves down, and I left Billy right where he was, fast asleep. Billy woke up. He woke up obviously confused because the room was empty, but he rubbed the sleep from his eyes, looked around for a second, looked over at me and my desk, and said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Don't worry about it, bud. Is there anything else that you need from me to make sure that your day goes okay? A snack, a drink, anything like that?" And he said no, and he got up and walked himself down to music class. So I walked down to have a conversation with our social worker, who also worked closely with Billy throughout the week, just to fill him in on what was going on in class. And of course, he filled me in on a little bit more background on Billy. At 10 and 11 years old, Billy had a ton of siblings he was responsible for. He was in charge of making sure they were taken care of at home when he got home from school, and he was in charge of making sure they were all up and out the door in the morning to get on the bus. So at 10 and 11 years old, Billy didn't have the responsibilities of a child. He had the responsibilities of an adult. So it made perfect sense as to why he came into my class completely exhausted. And to be completely truthful, in 8 years of teaching, Billy and only a small number of other kids have actually fallen asleep on me in class. But in every single case, with every single student that fell asleep, there was a background story that needed to be heard. There was a perfectly good reason as to why they were exhausted. So teachers, just like me, take a lesson from Billy. Don't assume the students are just being lazy.